Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick presents After Dark. It's a little after dark. It's about 9:15. It is Tuesday, October 29th. The Dallas Mavericks are now 3-1 after defeating the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road in what I feel assign as of their 3 wins in 4 games as probably the most declarative win for all sorts of reasons. Josh, how you doing?
Doing good. Early game, good win. Lots to talk about too, like you said. So we've kind of got the trifecta of the makings of a good podcast here. Because that was hell of a game. Yeah, like you said, easily the best win of the season. And I was thinking, like, walking back to my computer, like, as we're through this, I was like, what are we like? So much happened in this game. I know it's our job to figure out the best parts or the things that we feel are the most important to talk about, but it's going to be really hard with this game because I feel like every other possession there was just something I noticed, whether it was good or bad or just notable. Really back and forth game for the most part, like a really physical game. Like this felt like a playoff game. I mean, it absolutely felt like this was game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. Like it felt like that series just picked up right where it left off.
Well, and I think we owe it. I think we owe it to everybody to sort of. So if you didn't watch this game, and again, it's October, it's the 4th game of the season. Yes, it's a national TV game, but you know what? If you don't want to throw yourself into the Mavs just yet, you're just catching up. Can't say I blame you. You missed a fun one though, because what happened in this one was Anthony Edwards came out throwing haymakers. I mean, absolute haymakers. The Mavericks were guarding him well. He poured in 24 points. And yet, at the end of the first quarter, the Mavericks found themselves down just 8. And as David Trink and I were talking during the playback, it feels like the Mavericks are just going to hang around here, which, let's be clear, the Mavericks were playing their 3rd game in 4 nights in 3 different cities. Okay. This was schedule loss to the T, to where if they would have come out and lost a close one, I think we would have come in here and still had a lot of stuff to talk about. But the fact that they took a lot of body blows from the Minnesota Timberwolves and walked away with the W, you talked about the things you were seeing, both good and bad, from possession to possession. I'll tell you what I see when I look at this team. This team has a massive margin for error because they possess a lot of raw talent and ability. And once they figure out how to hone and get the most out of one another at the right time, and again, it's a long season, they're scary. And this was the first game where I was like, oh, okay, this is a differently built team. What did you think?
Yeah, I think so as well. Not to start. I mean, I guess we start from I'm starting from the third quarter, but like what the thing that jumped out to me was really that third quarter, and again, the fact that they had a lead at the end of the first half, despite the Wolves making 6 more 3-pointers than the Mavericks did in the first half.
That's hard.
That's this new team, right? Like they will give up some threes, and they might not match you at the 3-point line like they used to in Luka's first 2, 3, 4 seasons, like that version of the Mavericks. But this version beats your ass at the rim and beats your ass in the paint, and that's their identity. And that's what they did. They outscored the Wolves by a bunch in the first half in the paint. Finished with a pretty healthy margin, points in the paint, end of the game, 52-38 against the Wolves team that has Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert, and Naz Reid, and Anthony Edwards, who's a paint menace as well. That's just this team. They score in the paint and they do their best to take away the paint from you. And I think that's something to hang their hat on. And I think it's a sustainable identity. Now, what happened in the third quarter, which really opened my eyebrows, and honestly, like that third quarter is like a thesis on why this Mavericks team can win a championship this season. Not to get too over my skis here, but you had Luka injuring his knee right before halftime, comes out to start the third quarter, and he does not look right.
No, he looked terrible.
He had 3 awful possessions to start the third quarter. Team, they lose their lead. They're down by multiple possessions. I think they got down by like 7 or 8 after Luka. Like it looked like Luka was trying to like wake his knee up, like he was trying to play his way into feeling better, and it wasn't happening. They call timeout. They get down a little bit, and then from there, Luka was a not a non-factor, but he wasn't the factor. He took a step aside, and the rest of the team made plays and got them into the game. And not only got them back in the game, they took a double-digit lead into the fourth quarter. They were up 11 to end the third quarter. With Luka not having much to do with the third quarter in terms of raw like points and assists.
Kyrie was like masterclass. Like what we've hoped for from Kyrie he was just so good.
Kyrie was so good. Everyone was good. Like Lively was good all game, but like Lively, Grimes, Najee Marshall had a couple of good plays in the third. PJ Washington was good in the third, but he was good for most of the game. Gafford had some good, like the way that they were able to see, okay, Luka's not right. He's not feeling well. Like he's still in pain. We have to go to plan B. And we've seen the Mavericks in the Luka era that when Luka doesn't have it, the plan B, even after the Kyrie Irving trade, has not looked great. And we saw in the NBA Finals against the Celtics that when teams dare the Mavericks to play one-on-one, they dare Luka to beat them, it's just hard to win that way. And I didn't get this story written before the season, and I need to write it before we get to I need to write it. Like you need to kick my ass and tell me to write the story. But I wanted to write a story about how the next step for Luka and the Mavericks is that like if they want to win a championship, he just can't do everything. And I went back and I looked at like the last 10 finals winners and the usage rate of the top usage player. And it's not 36, 34, 35, 36, 38, which is what Luka gets up to. It's like 30. I think like the highest of like the last 10 years of a finals winner is like LeBron at 30 or like 31. A lot of 27, 28. Like as much as basketball can be dominated by one individual, to win a championship with the level of talent in this league, you can't ask one guy to literally just do everything, which the Mavericks had been asking Luka to do for, last 5 or so years. The third quarter showed that they have a roster that can win without Luka needing to do everything. And I thought it was the most impressive quarter I've seen them play in some time. Obviously, some of the playoff games were very impressive.
It was the best quarter this season.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And it showed like, okay, they can, if Luka doesn't have it, they can do this. They have options. And that's kind of what you were hinting at before you kind of passed it off to me. There's just so many dudes now that do so many different things that just doesn't feel. They don't have to walk up the floor and let Luka run high pick and roll and be like, all right, figure it out, score.
I mean, in fact, I think we can make the argument that Luka's not running enough fucking pick and roll. It's driving me crazy.
Well, teams are playing a little different. They're not doubling him now. Yeah. They're taking away the easy stuff. But again, they had a counter in the third quarter. I mean, like Gafford and Lively handling the ball at the elbows, off-ball offense, Kyrie doing stuff. Clay didn't have a big game, but like his presence was felt in terms of his floor gravity. Like PJ doing Najee Marshall had 3 assists and 0 turnovers in 16 minutes. I know he didn't make any shots, but like it was just impressive the way that they were able to slowly crush the life out of a contender on the contender's home floor without Luka needing to like spoon feed everyone, and like how often have we said this Mavericks team in Luka era has done that? And that's not a slight to Luka or anything. It's more like this is how you help Luka take the next step. Is you can't ask him to be the alpha and omega of every possession.
Well, and he's not been. And I want to talk about that real quick. Do you know how bad? Do you know how poorly Luka's shooting this year? Have you looked? Because I did.
I don't know the exact number, but I know it's not good.
He is shooting 36 for 99 from the floor overall. So 36% from the floor overall. 3-pointers, he is now. How many did he make tonight? 1 of 8. He is 11 of 41 from 3. Luka's been dog water compared to the Luka that we know. They're 3-1. Like this is like watching a fantasy football team and if you drafted Christian McCaffrey first overall and you're still winning. You just kind of, you're like, all right, well, what the shit happens when that guy comes back? And again, I don't point this out the bag on Luka. I'm
So
saying
this is a good thing, like in a way.
It's a great thing because we know Luka will come around. We know he's going to start to hit. It's the ones that are absolutely killing me right now. I hate the step back 15-footer from the left elbow that I don't think he's made once. And I hate the left side runners that he just hasn't gotten to fall yet. So he's going to be fine. That's there's no question about that. I've really thought his defensive efforts have been better. There were multiple instances tonight of rotation closeout from the team that I'm sitting there watching it going, this is stellar defense. And so it's like if you're getting your bread and butter of what makes the Dallas Mavericks that we saw post All-Star break all the way to the finals, if you're getting that established now, then the high hopes we had for this team are more than justified.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you saw some stuff with Luka, like, again, when the team was running up they weren't running up the score, but when they were building a lead in the third quarter, it wasn't just Luka standing in the corner. Like, he did move a little bit off the ball. Like, he's coming off pin downs and catching dribble handoffs at the elbow.
He got hurt moving off the ball.
He's never gonna do it again.
Like, there was a Lively offensive rebound where Lively should have right hook and then got his own rebound, and he ended up hitting a left hook. It was over.
Yeah, I remember that play.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
Luka was standing at the right wing the whole time, and I remember looking at it going, if he just dives, he can get a dunk. Now, bizarre of me thinking Luka Doncic is going to dive and get a dunk, but just that's my basketball brain. But like, he's moving. And yeah, Kevin Hong in the chat says the Mavericks aren't running pick and roll exclusively. Luka is adjusting to do what he needs to do to get the ball, get better looks, and the three is going to fall eventually. That's correct. That's the correct take. And
yeah,
by focusing on or drawing attention to Luka's struggle game and the fact that the Mavericks are winning, the ceiling for me and the floor to a certain extent are both raising. And I'm really up there with this. This was a lot of fun. I actually don't know what to talk about next because I'm a little giddy.
Well, we can talk about how, like, the fourth quarter, they did like the exact opposite of everything they did in the third, where they kind of reverted to no passing, one-on-one isolation hero ball. But I kind of in the moment forgot that this was their third game in 4 nights and their third city in 4 nights.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they were obviously looking gassed toward the end of the fourth. Like, that kind of explains a lot. Like, when you're tired, it's hard you don't want to cut, like, we know, like, I know that we haven't played competitive ball in a while, but we both, I mean, anyone that's played basketball, even if you're just playing pickup, like, when you're exhausted, you don't want to set screens, and you don't want to cut down the lane. So that makes a lot more sense. Cause in the moment I was like, what are they doing? Like, they were doing this so great in the third quarter. Now they're kind of throw it away. But yeah, now, back to back, third game in 4 nights, third city in 4 nights. That makes a lot of sense. But
you know that before I said it?
I did not. I knew back to back, but like, I totally didn't think about 3 cities in 4 nights and 3 games of 4. Like, it's
because I thought tonight's was a home game, and somebody pointed it out to me before because I just hadn't checked the calendar, and I'm like, what the hell is the NBA doing? They go San Antonio, Phoenix, Dallas, Minnesota. Like, that's a lot of air miles in a week.
Yeah, for sure. But they close it out, and then, it's funny because I just had this long soliloquy about how they can do all this without Luka, and I'm sure anyone that didn't watch is looking at the box score is like, what the hell are you talking about? Because Luka and Kyrie, they combined for 60 or 59 points, and they only had 2 other Mavericks in double digits. But you just look like there were just contributions everywhere. And fourth quarter, that's the thing about this team is it's like, okay, they stopped doing all that stuff, but it's like Luka, Kyrie, Gobert, like, they just hit those step back threes, and it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. Even when you guard them and you get them into what you want them to do, which is the Mavericks stagnating and playing one-on-one ball, like you kind of like they're the two of the best one-on-one players in the league right now. So it's like that's not even necessarily a reliable solution. And we saw with Kyrie's dagger step back three and Luka's dagger step back three that pretty much ended the game. But was nice in the fourth is that even when the offense got horrifically stagnant in the fourth, they were still doing stuff, all the other stuff to keep them in the game. Like they were guarding a little bit better in times, although there was a stretch there where the Kyrie, Clay, Luka trio in crunch time, the Wolves were kind of bullying them a little bit on the defensive end. But like PJ and Lively's ability to just kind of plug gaps, like Lively had like the best 5.9 rebound game I can remember. Like I don't know, but you want to talk about Lively because I was really smitten with him and PJ tonight. So we can go either way.
Let's talk about him, PJ, Kyrie when we come back from a short break. So once again, everybody who's hanging out with us in here, we know you have your choice in post game shows. Shout out to people who with our friends at DLLS who are also doing one. We Talk Mavs who do a post game show. I think my man Bibbs occasionally does one, but theirs is much more of a broader recap show. There's a lot of live show options. Is my point. Mavs Digest did something during the game, but we appreciate you guys hanging out here with us. If you've not hit the subscribe button, consider it. If you've not, what are the other options? If you've not left a comment on the show, please do so after the fact. If you are a audio subscriber, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing to the show. We are very grateful of those sorts of things. Now I think what Josh and I are going to do is insert a quick ad and we will be right back. I did forget to mention that I'm going to do a secondary show tonight. I didn't do one after the win the other night. No, it was after the loss, the Suns lost. Brian Roby and I chatted for about 20 minutes last night. If anybody else wants to join, I'll be posting that link in the YouTube after in the middle of the show here, and you guys can join. And we can talk a little basketball, celebrate the things that you guys find interesting or found fun. That's the whole point of this thing, is to enjoy the sport, and wins are nice. Now, Josh, I think we should pivot back to. I'd kind of like to what Kyrie or Lively? Who dealer's choice here? What do you think?
Well, let's start with Kyrie because I feel like I've been harping. I mean, I've been riding Lively all season and just kind of gushing about him, but we haven't really talked much about Kyrie to start the season, and he's Kyrie. This was like
he kept things humming for this offense. Mm-hmm. While Luka was simply unable to score for portions of the game. 35 points on 23 shots, 6 of 8 from 3. The 3 ball that he's been taking lately just looks beautiful. He was hilariously 3 of 5 from the free throw line, which is like his best place to shoot from. He had 5 assists to go with 4 rebounds. He only had 1 turnover. I thought he played really good defense. He was just sort of an everywhere on the floor kind of guy. He's not, you would assume for a guy who's his size at a certain point, teams would target him. He's just not a weakness on that end of the floor. He's so impressive. And I really like watching him operate because you just don't know what the hell he is going to do next. He can pass the ball. Like the lefty finishes are so, I don't want to say they're undervalued or under discussed, but they amaze me every time they happen. And I've really enjoyed watching him these past 2 games in particular because I haven't felt there's been any of the extra, I don't know, there's just like a try hard or like an elevation of difficulty that can be a part of his game. And I thought that his execution these past 2 were really impressive.
Yeah, that third quarter was magnificent. He had 16 points in the third quarter on 6 of 10 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3. He's been shooting the 3 well all season. Like even he's been struggling from 2 in a couple of games, but he's been good from 3 since night 1 against the Spurs. And there were times in the first quarter where it was that thing again where Luka goes out and like Dinwiddie came in and Kyrie was just kind of like chilling in the corner while Dinwiddie was like holding the ball and dribbling the air out of the ball. And I'm just kind of like, I'm just thinking like, go get the ball and like run offense. You are all NBA Kyrie Irving. Like you are finals game-winning final shot Kyrie Irving. Why are you, deferring to Dinwiddie, and I know a lot of that is just like he does that purposefully. And I think, there's a reason why so many players like Kyrie and enjoy playing with him. Like there's definitely like a method to that. That's not just him like doing that just to do it. Like I think he truly believes in letting other guys touch the ball a lot, even sometimes to the detriment of what's going on the floor. But it pays off. The locker room usually has been pretty good with Kyrie since he's been in Dallas. But then in the second half, I felt like he was much more assertive with Luka, both off the ball and when Luka was off the court. And yeah, he was terrific. Just like the shot making was just absolutely terrific. The variety of shots, like you said, I like that he had some post up kind of plays in the paint.
Yep.
That's a pretty nice weapon for a guy his size. It's just so unorthodox. Even when he's being guarded, like I think he was being guarded by Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and he got him on a spin move in the third quarter and got fouled and went to the line. And it's like Nickeil has like 2 inches and like a 6'7", 6'8" wingspan, and Kyrie posted him up like he was not like he was Kyrie size. And I thought that kind of stuff is just impressive and just adds to the variety of the attack. They don't just have to keep spamming high pick and roll. And then this way that they're doing more dribble handoffs with Luka, like it's going to Kyrie as well. And Kyrie is so good on handoffs with his shooting ability, and the way that his jumper is dangerous from anywhere he touches the ball. There's those handoffs when he gets ahead of steam. They're tough to guard when they're doing that, especially with Kyrie. So and then of course he hits the big 3 late to make up for missing 2 free throws kind of toward the end of the game. So. I think he missed the 2 free throws after he made the big 3. But either way, his game was awesome, and I think he's picking up where he's left off. Like there's just nothing. He broke his hand all this summer and didn't really play basketball, so I expected a little bit of a slow start. But he's been at 40% or better from 3 in every game. His 2-pointers have been hit or miss, but like he's been absolutely great. There's like nothing else to really say. Like he's been exactly what the team has needed through the first 4 games.
Well, and then there's the aforementioned Derek Lively, who had just a shockingly, I feel like he was everywhere kind of game. 27 minutes, but he only had 5 points and 9 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds that were huge. He had 1 assist, then he had 4 combined stocks, which were steals and blocks, only 1 turnover. He ended up as just a +3 in those 27 minutes, but it's just he's out there on the floor. He needs to tighten up his defensive rebounding. He's still a little goofy there because he goes for some shot blocking things that I think he needs to chill out on. But overall, just kind of a mesmerizing game from a guy that's in his second year. I know he's going to be lost for such a significant portion of his career. Lost maybe isn't right, but held in a different light compared to Wemby and Chet. And it is what it is. Comparison is the thief of joy, but every game he plays, like, man, this dude's special. And I'm delighted.
Yeah. Just watching his defensive possessions tonight, like the way he just fills every gap, and the Mavericks don't have a perfect defensive roster. They start Kyrie, Luka, and Clay. You're going to have some limitations there on your perimeter defense, and that's not even taking a shot at those guys. Like it's just kind of how it is. And there are times when Lively's playing on the floor, and the best he's got to make up for a lot, is what I'm saying. He covers so much ground. There's so many possessions. Like you could just see Minnesota's like, okay, first option, nope, because Lively shuts it off. Second option, nope, Lively shut. Like the way he's able to just. This is, I don't know, I hate to just keep using analogies, but he just shuts off the water. Like Minnesota is doing something. He meets someone at the rim. Okay, they got to kick
Randall
out.
was baffled by him. Like Randall is a guy who just kind of pushes his way through problems, and he had nothing. I would love to see the matchup data between those two tonight.
Yeah, and it might not even come out, because Randall was 7 of 13.
A great game. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not like he shot poorly. It's less about like what people are shooting against Lively and more what they're not doing because of his presence. Like just the way that he kind of just appears, when as a help defender. And it's like, it's not that he forces a missed shot. He forces a kick out. and or maybe a turnover or something like that. And yeah, like he just keeps doing it. And he had, he didn't have a perfect game, and obviously like he had a couple defensive possessions that he probably wished to have back. He offensively had didn't have an impactful game, but that's more just how the Wolves kind of guard him and didn't just wanted to take away the easy stuff. But like defensively, I just can't get over just how smart he is for being a 20-year-old. And we said that last year, but like the Wolves tried to do stuff like they try. It's the Mavericks outscored them. What? Let me see what it was. 52-38 in the paint. And I don't think the Wolves paint number being under 40 was like a lack of effort. Like the way Lively was just able to kind of meet wherever the Wolves were trying to take him. It was just impressive. It was absolutely impressive.
Yeah. And then we got PJ Washington, who he does one thing that makes me go, how? And then he does something else that makes me go, whoa. So 17 points, 8 rebounds, where he splits the offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds, 3 assists and a steal. He finally found his 3-ball tonight. He was 3 of 17. No, 3 of 16, I think, coming into the game. And then he, of course, boofed a wide open one from Luka, and one of the really cool passes Luka likes to make. But he found a little bit of a shot. He drove, like he had some nice plays in transition tonight. Mm-hmm. Guarded a lot of the different guys for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and really in 32 minutes kind of gave you the whole package of what you can hope for when it comes to PJ Washington.
Yeah, this feels kind of like a ceiling game for him. Like why, like when he has these bad games and you're just like why? And it's like, cause this is in him. Like this wasn't like the stuff he did tonight. When he has these games like this, it doesn't feel fluky. You know what I mean? Like despite the fact that he's had some inconsistent games, at least offensively, like this just doesn't, you just watch him and all these things he's doing feels natural to him. Like he is a gifted and talented basketball player. And this goes back to the point I made last year where it was like, he went to Kentucky. He was a 12th overall pick. Like this guy is not some dude, second round grinder that's just playing above his weight class and occasionally gets hot from 3 and everything looks good. Like he's a talented dude. He's super athletic. He is super athletic. And you just, when the talent and the athleticism comes together for him and in a right way, you have games like these where, he's making shots. He's making good passes in transition. Like you said, he's rebounding well. He's guarding like 4 different guys over the course of a handful of possessions. He was tasked with guarding Anthony Edwards. And I know Edwards had a meteor game tonight, but so much of that damage was the first quarter. And second half, Edwards didn't do as much damage. And I think you can attribute some of that to PJ Washington's defense. So that versatility is something the Mavericks haven't had from like a forward, like from that 3-4 position in the Luka era. Like their 3-4s for the first few seasons, not to discount those players, were very static players. PJ can be very dynamic when he's going right. And I think he showed that off tonight. I don't know that the thing is, can he stack them and be more consistent? And we'll see. We'll have to see. But he's got 2 in a row because this was kind of a similar game against Utah. And so he's put together 2 of them in a row, and let's see where he goes from there.
One PJ play that just sticks in my brain was he got a long offensive rebound off of, maybe it was somebody's shot, but it like front rimmed and he caught it near the 3-point line, and he's driving in and he's in that in-between space between the free throw line and the 3-point line. And he finds a drifting Kyrie Irving in the right corner and just lasers a pass. It wasn't between 2 defenders, but it was not an easy read. It just put it right in Kyrie's shooting pocket. And you're like, all right, this is good stuff. And if you're feeling good about this game, like the players we've discussed so far, and just sort of the feel of things, somebody pointed out, Gafford with his, I think he had 8 points in the first quarter, really started things going. Najee, you mentioned the Najee Marshall of it all. I was delighted.
That great steal from Najee to seal the game against Edwards, which was pretty good.
I really the Quentin Grimes minutes were pretty funny to me. Grimes makes a three and then he misses a three, and then it felt like Kidd pulled him because he missed the three. And then he returned later only to hit two more big threes. It's just the Mavericks are very multiple. They have a lot of options. You know, Hardy he hit one shot and then he had one turnover and then we never saw him again. And you know, then you had Spencer Dinwiddie, who played just a bizarre game where he ends up as with a team leading +8, despite being 1 for 5 with a turnover and a bad offensive foul on Ant. Like, it was. I really love this game. They need to win games. This game wasn't in the mud. That's not what I mean. But sometimes you just got to find a way to fight through shit. And if you know, we've talked a lot about how the Mavericks need to win the grimy games when they don't really want to play, and this felt like one of those.
Yeah, for sure. Like back to back, the travel, the 3 and 4 nights. Yeah, it's impressive. And something we haven't really called out yet that we probably should as we're getting near the end. Like, this might be the stat key of the game. Wolves had 20 turnovers. Mavs had 9.
Wow.
And you look at, and this is the thing that killed the Wolves against the Mavericks in the conference finals. You look at the Mavericks' two best offensive players, Luka and Kyrie. They combined for 4 turnovers. Kyrie had 1, Luka had 3. The Wolves' two best offensive players, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, they combined for 8. Kyrie and Luka combined had less turnovers than Anthony Edwards on his own. And that's, to me, that's like the difference between these. There's more to it than that. But you just see these games, the script just, it follows it every time. Is just, it gets into crunch time. And the Wolves just don't have that playmaker. They just don't really know where to go. Like, they want to go to Ant, but Ant still needs to get one more like level of being that offensive option and playmaker. And you know, he's just not there yet. And he gets a little loose with the ball. And then you've got like Kyrie and Luka, who, yeah, in crunch time might drive you crazy with kind of dribbling the air out of the ball and all that. But they get shots and they're pretty good at clutch shots, and they don't turn the ball over. And you can win a lot of clutch games that way. And I think that kind of showed up again in this game.
That's a bingo. All right, you're right. Let's get on out of Dodge, or at least wrap up this portion of the show. Before we get out of here, I want to give 4 quick shout outs. First, my man Henry saying Luka been Scooby-Doo for 48 hours.
Scooby-Doo.
That's a good one. We got my man Glenn out in Nevada he says a glorious win. Thank you so much, Glenn. We got Brian saying an amazing effort on a second night of a back-to-back 3rd and 4 nights. Absolutely right. And then Twan, hope I'm saying that right. Lively will end up being the second best player from last year's draft. I love that take. It's fire. For anybody that's waiting, I posted the secondary show link into the chat. I'm going to cut to a quick break for audio listeners. They'll get the follow-up show at some point tomorrow. If you'd like to join me up here, all you got to do is click that StreamYard link, and then we can talk a little basketball, and we'll see what's going on. Josh, you enjoy the rest of your night. We're done before 10 p.m., even though we got editing to do. This has been fun. Thanks so much, guys, and let's go Mavs. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Pod and Maverick presents. This is a Mavs party because we're live, and the Dallas Mavericks just defeated the Minnesota Timberwolves 120-114. For those of you who might all be interested, this is our secondary live show where I hang out and talk with you guys for as long as you have takes that you want to get off. You can, if you're here on the YouTube stream, you click the StreamYard link that I have pinned in the YouTube channel. I will bring you up on stage here with me. We can talk a little basketball and I don't know, just kind of see what everybody's thinking. I try to do one of these after every show. We got and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It's a lot of fun. It's validating. Coming up first is my man Henry. Henry, long time, no talk. Great to hear from you. How you doing, friend?
What's going on, boss? How you doing?
I am enjoying myself because as Josh and I just kind of tipped off there, you're one of your favorite players, and Kyrie Irving is playing the kind of game that you stand up and cheer for. Just a fantastic performance, and I had a great time watching it.
Absolutely. What was I going to say? I'm playing 2K right now, but I like Luka's shot. He always wants to bury a team in the first quarter. When it looks good, we get Game 5 Minnesota where we absolutely just rip their hearts out. However, I do wish he would learn more so when he doesn't have it to trust his team. If Dwight Powell's still the starting center, hey man, take as many shots as you want to. But this is the kind of the portion of why we improved the team so that you didn't have to, as you would say, be the alpha and the omega.
Sure.
I just wish when it wasn't going, and he's been absolute hot dog water these past 2 games. You can see
he's been bad all season, man. He's shooting 36% from the floor.
Do you think him missing preseason is leading into this, or like what's going on? Because since Utah, ever since KD called him small, his body language has been awful.
I don't know. I mean, I feel, and I'm pretty sure you're an NFL fan too. I sort of feel like for guys of his ilk that play as much as they do, and I know you could use like the Nikola Jokic comparison, who's just throwing up video game numbers himself. Right. I think Luka, this is the first year where Luka's looked a little slow on the uptake, and I don't entirely know what to make of it other than he has a long enough track record to have earned it, or to have earned some patience, and the fact that they're winning while he's playing, or at least he's shooting poorly. I think he's actually playing okay. The shooting is pretty bad. Well, we'll see. He's really hunting Clay for assists, and they don't do anything more than 1 or 2 times. I'm a little bit vexed by that in the sense of they're not pressing their easy buttons very often. They'll maybe run a couple double screens for Luka. They have not run a lot of what they did in that first game to free up Clay for shots. That kind of Lively sets a screen for Luka. Clay sets a down screen for Lively. Clay pops up to the top. Like, they're just not running some of that stuff. So
that's a defense thing, or do you think he's just experimenting early in the season?
I think he's experimenting because you just got a lot of new toys to play with, and you need to see what's what.
Okay. Do you think Gafford should go to the bench? You think Lively should be starting, or do you kind of like him still experimenting with that?
I think what isn't broken, we shouldn't fix as long as Lively is getting more minutes. And tonight they played what I think many people would consider to be the closing lineup for like the final 7 minutes of the game with Lively in at the center instead of Gafford, and they won. So I'm okay with it.
Okay. Yeah, that's my only takeaway from tonight. Luka, you got a better team, buddy. If it ain't going your night, just give the ball up because we're winning despite you at this point. And yes, that is a positive, but fuck, is it frustrating to watch.
We'll see how they go. Thanks, man. Talk soon, okay?
See you, bro.
All right. Rain, what's happening, my man? Long time no talk.
A very long time. Such a good game to watch. Such a frustrating game to watch.
Yeah. It's great yell at your TV kind of game.
I was in the playback TV, and that's watching both yourself and Slightly at the same time, actually. And there's so many moments. It's just, what the fuck is happening? I'll say, I'll disagree with you on that. I don't think that Luka has been playing that well. Or maybe I should scale it back and say he's had a lot of possessions where he's very clearly frustrated and purposely baited a foul and not gotten the call and obviously gotten pissed. And he's also had his defensive effort has been a lot better, but he still has plenty of positions where he's not paying attention. I think it was the third or the fourth. His back was almost completely turned, and someone ended up going for a 3, and I think it was PJ had to come across to cover him because his back was turned to try and close out for the 3. Which amazing that PJ even got there in time. And speaking of PJ, like it's nice to see him hit a couple of threes. It's nice to see a bunch of people hit, like Quentin Grimes hitting some threes. Like I don't think we can expect Grimes to be shooting deuces all season. Like this sort of a shooting night feels like what we should be able to expect out of him fairly regularly. Dinwiddie seems like he's just going to be an up and down player.
Sure.
But yeah, just going back to Luka, I would say he has played pretty poorly overall for quite a few quarters. I think he has stretches where he plays very well, but I think without doing this pick and roll spam, he does seem a little bit lost, like he doesn't know how to fit in almost. If that is a little crazy to say.
No, because like basketball is a series of 2 and 3 man sets, even if there's 5 guys on the floor. You're not running some like complicated Princeton offense in the NBA. You're running and some of what Luka's been doing where he's off ball. But I mean, he is like we made the joke in the recap show, like Luka quite literally got hurt moving off ball.
He did, and then it probably led to the easiest basket of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say that if they went back, I'm so disappointed that they have not gone back to what they did in that third quarter of the Spurs game with those double screen Spain pick and rolls with double handoffs, and that feels like the way that they should be playing every game, getting
the
more
handoffs
shots to
sitting
play.
on them. The handoffs work almost every time, so they're going away from them right now because they work too much.
You know what? It wouldn't surprise me if Big Brain over there thinks that that's the way to go. This works too well. Let's hide it until the offseason.
So I'm an American football fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, who have won 2 Super Bowls in a row. Their coach does this same shit where he finds one thing that works and is like, you know what? Never going to run it again. We're going to save it for the playoffs. And I get it. But at the same time, it's also like sometimes you just want to press an easy button and get a win.
I mean, if they want to have a Luka MVP season, that's probably what they're going to need to do. Now, they're winning despite it, but we all know at this point, if Luka wants to win an MVP, they're going to have to be a 2 seed. So
maybe. I mean, you know, I personally will think about the MVP after 20 games, and which
we probably shouldn't think about it till he starts to shoot well again.
Yes, right. I mean, he's shooting 11 for 41 from 3, like 20. You know, roughly 25% is not going to cut it.
I mean, how many games have the Mavs won where Luka's been 1 of 8 for 3?
Not many, man. I mean, there's got to have been some where he's been, you know, this kind of horrible, but they aren't coming to mind.
It's and I'll say there've been people complaining in all chats about how Luka's not able to break down his man anymore, and I think part of that comes from players defending him are realizing his shot's not falling and daring him to shoot the 3. It's a lot easier to break his man's down.
He over dances though. It happened last night where he got past. Like I was like, because I've been watching these games on playback. And I was just like screaming as I'm talking, where it's like, Luka, you got the guy on your side. Just go. And he pulls back sometimes because we know he counts. He's talked about this, how he counts the number of
seconds there in the key
for the defenders. And so sometimes I think he pulls back because of that. But it's also like sometimes you just got to force the issue, bub.
Yeah, like I said, I think it will come. I can't explain why his shooting has been so poor. There's nothing in his form or anything that I can see that suggests it should be shooting this poorly. It's just things don't seem to be falling. I mean, he's had the odd shot, which has been very short or very wide to either side. But
sure.
A lot, even his shots at the rim, which haven't been going. A lot of
oh my
those
god,
been,
that's just killing me.
So, but hey, like he's not playing well, and this team's winning, and it feels weird. It feels very wrong. You're watching the game, and it feels like we should be getting blown out because he's not playing that well. But somehow they're not down by more than like 5 points at a time, and sometimes they're up, and you're like, this doesn't compute in my. I'm going to be honest. I'm a Mavs fan who's only been watching since Luka was drafted.
It's fine. Yeah,
but in that time span, if Luke has not been playing out of his mind, it's not looked like a good basketball game. And I'm just glad that there's some talent on this team. It's new, and you've been arguing it since as long as I've been listening to it, and they finally got it, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, and I would rather they play their best basketball in the second half of the season than the first half anyways, because, sometimes there's nowhere to go but down.
Well, I mean, this is a Jason Kidd run team, so guaranteed they'll play better after the All-Star break.
That's right, man. That's right. Rain, thanks for joining. You got anything else?
I think that's about it, mate. Thanks, mate.
All right. Coming up next is Drew. Drew says he's a Wolves fan, but we like Wolves fans. Drew, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. How you doing?
I'm okay. I could get used to like a 6:30, 7 o'clock start time. Mavs games all normally start at 7:30 to 7:45, and so I'd be like kind of just. It's just nice to finish, so it means we can talk about the game and then go to bed like human beings. So what's going on?
So I kind of just wanted a opinion outside of my team. I've been watching this team for my whole life, and for some reason, when we play against you guys just come out with something I've never seen before. I mean, in the fourth quarter, I had to close my eyes on Luka and Kyrie shots because I was just terrified.
Pretty brutal.
The bang, like I don't get it. Do you guys usually play like this every game, or is it just against us?
It's a fun question. I will say that the Luka get up and fight meter seems to rise against certain guys, and I think he really loves hating Rudy Gobert, and I think he really likes playing against Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
But the fact we've talked about this as Mavs fans here pretty frequently, the fact that they have two shot makers like Luka and Kyrie, like you look at it on paper and you're like, okay, this team's probably going to be pretty good. But over an 82-game season, they're small. Like those two guys, they're guards. They're guard-adjacent players. There's just no way. But then you play them in one game, and it's like, fucking hell, are these guys good at basketball? That's that's kind of what it comes down to.
I remember last year in the Western Conference Finals, like Gafford and Lively, I think they shot like 85% from the field, the whole time. And I'm a huge Rudy Gobert defender. I know a lot of people that are Wolves fans are not.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I feel like he's playing fine. It's just like, it's these guys. I don't know.
Naz Reid gets cooked on defense. And it's an unfortunate thing because Rudy is just such a gifted defender who's managed to stave off Father Time for a guy that big. And I would argue, I've watched 3 Wolves games this year. I would argue he looks as good right now as he has ever looked.
Yeah.
And you just sort of wonder how I don't necessarily think he's getting the guff for it. I mean, what are the Wolves right now? They're 2-2.
Yeah.
I mean, I think his hands look a little better. He was catching some nice they're placing things for him tonight in a way that were beneficial to him. So, long enough timeline, maybe things will work out. Ant got a little over his skis this game. Like he almost got too excited.
He's done that. He's done that so much. I went to the home opener against the Raptors, and we were up by 20 points the whole time. And then this fourth quarter comes around, and Ant's just it looks like he's dribbling with his head down. He turns the ball over, just careless mistakes. And this year too, I mean, the mid-range was his game last year.
Mm-hmm.
And
he loves those pull-up threes.
I love them. But now it's 20 pull-up threes a game, which just long rebounds where transition defense isn't going to be good. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about this year, but I'm trying to be
I think conclusions, if you're this good of a Wolves fan to be watching early in the season and then to be joining ops podcasts, I think you got to give them at least 15 games. I will say the one thing that was surprising to me was I was expecting Julius Randle to gunk things up more than he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought he was pretty awesome. There was that high-low action between him and Rudy once where I was like, oh man, if they work on this 4 or 5 pick and rolls, that's going to be tough.
Yeah. I was really nervous about Randle coming in just because of that. you had like last year, a guy like Cat, he could sit in the corner and the defenders would have to get a lot closer to him because, I mean, he would have that super fast, quick release. But now it's like, they're clogging up the lanes. And like, I was really scared that Randall would just dribble the ball for 12 seconds and then try to, like what he was doing against the Lakers.
Yep.
But it seems like Finch has really kind of put his foot down and be like, this is how we play basketball here. So I've really enjoyed watching Randall the last couple of games. But
well, I understand why this one is frustrating for you.
Yeah.
They'll suss things out though. Where was who's the rookie you guys traded for?
Dillingham?
Yeah, was he hurt?
No.
I need him. I need him in games. I love him.
Yeah. He got cooked on defense in the preseason.
Ah.
But I also think, with these two new guys coming in, Finch has ran a 9-man lineup every single game.
Yeah.
So it seems like he's kind of trying to
that.
get the chemistry together. But we got to back to back, and we play San Antonio the second game. So I expect him, Minot,
that makes sense because Ingles only played 4 minutes. Ingles.
Yeah.
Joel.
He's funny to watch.
Yeah. And he's old. I mean, he's my age. He's got to be careful out there.
But yeah, I think he'll come in soon. Hopefully. I want to see what he's like.
Sure. He's great, man.
So
well, hey, thanks so much for hanging out with us, all right?
Hey, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Sure thing, man.
All
right, guys. I'm tired. It's 10:10, which is amazing. The Mavericks play on Halloween. We'll see what we're going to do in regards to the Halloween game. Josh and I both have small children, so there's like trick-or-treating involved. So if we do a podcast, it might be a little bit fibbed where you can tell we haven't watched as much of the game. I know we'll do something. That's the point. But thank you so much for hanging out with us here on the Tuesday, the 29th. We will be back on Halloween. Everyone have a great evening and go Mavs.